Once in the blue moon, we come across an LGBT movie that shows us what life is like being gay in another culture than our own, and it makes us sit up and really think. Jake Witzenfeld's Orientated is one such case. Over 18 months he trailed three very engaging young men who are a minority within a minority, as they are gay Arabs living in Tel Aviv in Israel. It's an impressive, heartwarming documentary, and very surprisingly, it's the work of a young, straight, Jewish, British guy from Essex in the UK. On the eve of the movie's latest screening at Boston's Wicked Queer Festival, we tracked Jake down in Israel to get a lowdown on this remarkable movie of his. Jake, how did a nice, straight Jewish boy from Essex end up with a group of gay Palestinians in Tel Aviv in the first place?
I moved. Well, it begins before I moved to Tel Aviv. I grew up as a nice straight Jewish boy in Essex, hearing about my Jewish identity in Israel and all of that in the way that one is fed information, I suppose, in a Jewish community in the UK. And I was always very connected to it, so much so that I spent time here before going to university, and I changed my degree in English literature at university to Middle Eastern Studies because I was keen to know more about it, and to kind of start challenging perhaps some of the information that I'd taken on as a younger man. And when I finished my studies, I moved out here because I had a girlfriend who was living here, and I had a job. There was a producer who was willing to get involved in a project I wanted to do. But beyond any of that, because those two things ended quite swiftly after I arrived, I was very keen to be involved in cultural production in Tel Aviv, because I think that that culture has major sociological value. I think it's cultural capital, and I think that here in the state of Israel, as a Jew who cares about a better Israel, there are certain stories that just don't get told, and there are certain narratives that don't get put forward, and I wanted to be a part of what I'd seen emerging in this city, and that's kind of what brought me there. So once I was here, it was a hop, skip, and a jump to Chadanaim and Fadi, who I came across online. I came across through their evolving activism in Tel Aviv.
But you met Khalid first?
Chadel, yes.
Okay. And how did the three guys know each other?
They had met through... Chadar and Fadi went on a blind date through a dating website at the time, I imagine, not application, when they were 14, I think.
Oh
yeah, and actually Chadar recounts this amazing story of how the first time he saw the Palestinian flag was at Fadi's parents' house after they'd gone to the cinema together at age 14 or so. Because in Yaffo, where Chadar's from, I suppose it's less... that's less of a common thing.
אני בן 25 מיפו. יצאתי מהארון כשהייתי בן 15. בן זוג שלי יהודי. אני רוצה לדבר איתכם על דור פלסטיני חדש שעדיין לא זכיתם להכיר.
Then Fadi came to university at Tel Aviv University to study nursing, and there he met Naeem, and I think Fadi and Naeem, through Fadi, reconnected with Chadel, and as such, this friendship began.
What is strange about the friendship is they're very close on the gay angle, but they're very different as well. One is romantic, one is very political, and one has family problems. Did that strike you as odd, or is that why they're such good friends? They're so different.
It didn't strike me as odd. I think that most groups of friends have a certain diversity about them. I know that my group of friends are a wild bunch of different sorts. But I think the thing that the crux of their relationship is their shared identity complex. It's not the things that differentiate them that really make them friends. I think it's the things that are similar, which is both the national issue of the striving to feel and be Palestinian in a Jewish country, and the sub-community issue, wanting to be a proud and open and free homosexual within the Arab sub-community in Israel. And I think that's a very rare combination of factors, and I think that is what unites them. And they also kind of, all ideology aside, they're very, very, very funny together, and they have a very good time together, and they have a lot of shared history together. So.
We are Palestine, we are queer, and we are here. I'll show you the other side.
Is this the pressure or stress of living in a double minority, of being Arab and gay? Does that make you dismiss the normal stresses that we have in everyday life?
No, I don't think so at all. I think it's the lens through which you experience the everyday life, and I think that's what makes it all the more difficult. Is because you still have to get on with your life. You can't just kind of, pose Socrates and contemplate your double bind. And I think that's what I was trying to show in the movie. Is that it is the day-to-day, ultimately, that everyone has to go through, and when you have a complex identity such as the boys, it just makes that's the channel through which you feed your identity complex.
And how much did your presence with the camera affect or shape and influence what they did? And for example, did it affect Naeem's decision to come out?
Interesting. To answer the general point before the Naeem point, I can't really be the judge of that. Obviously, I was with the camera, but I can say that I've made 4, Naram included, very dear friends who I remain in touch with, and I don't think I would have been able to make the film had we not been developing a friendship in parallel. And the first 6 months of shooting was as much about not shooting. It was just about as much as understanding. And I think that's where my urge to tell their story came from. I just really wanted to know them better and understand them better and be their friend. The Naeem point specifically is an interesting one. So I met Naeem about 2-3 weeks after I met Khadil. He started kind of introducing me to the boys and the rest of his friends. The first time we met, Naeem told me, there's no way I'm going to talk about my sexuality on camera. I'm not going to do it. And I said, okay. Who am I to come and convince you? I'm not even sure. I think he was bisexual at that point. I'm not entirely sure he identified as homosexual. But we left that aside. We didn't make that the focus of our interaction, of our friendship. I wanted to know who he was, and if about the things that he was willing to talk about on camera. Great. And I kind of ran with it because I found Naeem, I've always found, he's a very tender and beautiful soul. And about a year in, I think, it's all a blur now, the shooting, but there was one evening where, and it's the evening in the movie that you see, where he's out for drinks in Jaffa with the boys and Naram, and he turns around and says, I'm going to tell my parents. Now, I wasn't going to go and film that night. There was nothing in particular we were going to shoot, and it just so happened that my brother-in-law, who was in town, cancelled on me, and I was like, you know what, I'll grab my camera and put my mic on it and we'll go do it. And it just so happened that in the middle of that interaction, Naeem kind of just changed his position from what he'd told me previously, that, there's no way that he's going to talk about this on camera. And when we cut, and I kind of spoke to him afterwards, I said, you're aware that you haven't just got too used to me being around, right? Like, you get what you just did. And he said, yeah, I did it, and I did it intentionally. And I said, okay, great, let's see how things go. And then we spoke in the next few days, and I said, do you want do you want me to be there? And do you want this to be a part of the story that you're telling within the film? And he said yes, he did. And it was an incredible few days of being there for him as a friend and also as a filmmaker to have that access and intimacy to someone's, major life choice was quite incredible. And so that was the twist with Naim.
كل فكرة إني أطلع من الخزانة ولا لا. أنت مثلاً إيش بتلاقي بيافا أحسن لك إنك تتمر ساكنها؟ إيش اللي أحسن؟
And apart from that, had you any idea how all their stories would play out by the end?
No, not at all. I mean, I always had a sense of their characters very early on, not their stories.
And at the end of the project, had you radically changed your concepts on any of the issues that the film raised and dealt with?
Yeah, I still don't really have a clue what I think anymore.
About being gay being an Arab gay in Tel Aviv, or
no? I mean, I guess for me personally, the LGBT. I mean, I think so. Well, yeah, I guess through the movie, I've always been kind of liberally inclined politically, but I think I care much more about LGBTQ rights than I ever did because I've obviously been a part of that world now, and in a sense the film has become a part of that world. So that's definitely a change. I find myself caring more and less passively. And then obviously, I think going back to your straight British Jew from Essex definition, I think that the film was an amazing opportunity for me to really smash any preconceptions I had of the other and of what it means to be Palestinian. And obviously, there are many different circumstances in which people are Palestinian in the world. I'm not saying for a moment that Fadi Naim and Khada represent Palestine, but yeah, to have them as close friends and to understand what it means to know that somebody else lives in your grandmother's house, and to understand through not through history books, but through hearing someone say it to me or to my camera, that definitely changes you, and it definitely makes you more sensitive.
פלסטיני. אתה ערבי עם תעודת זהות כחולה, ערבי עם תעודת זהות כתומה, מה אתה רוצה?
Ever looked at any LGBT movies, particularly fictional ones that have come out of that region of the world, but they're usually quite miserable.
Yeah.
Yours, did you know that?
Yeah.
They end up dying. Yours ended up on a very positive note. How important was that to you?
It was important for me to reflect to authentically reflect the reality of what I was experiencing, and what I experienced with Khada Naim and Fadi is overwhelming positivity. I mean, their decision to make videos to try and impact their community is rooted in the idea that the world is changing to make them fit into it, nationally and with regards to their sexuality. So that was my concern. It wasn't that I was sat there thinking, God, I've got to give them a happy ending here. It has to be fireworks at the end of the movie. Not at all.
But their lives are quite positive, so they should.
Their lives are very positive. Yes.
And what's happened with them since?
Oh.
Oriented Part 2.
Yeah, well, funny you say that. Sorry, I'm moving. Let's go character by character. So Khader came back to Tel Aviv. He did not move to Berlin.
We got that in the film, yeah.
Yeah.
Still looking for a boyfriend?
He is single, and every Q&A appearance ends with some kind of shout out and announcement about that fact.
Good for him.
Or begins with it, even. Yeah. He moved, after him and David broke up, he moved back to Jaffa, to Jaffa. And I think that move has been quite symbolic for him. I think that he is relishing in the opportunity to take the stage that the film is giving him, as an activist, as someone who wants more awareness of being gay and Palestinian in the state of Israel, and he's doing a phenomenal job by educating people of all kinds about that. And we work very closely on the film's campaign together as well. I mean, I see him most days. So yeah, he's doing well. Him and David share Otis, the Dalmatian. They speak about Otis like it's a child in a divorce relationship. It's quite amusing. And then Fadi.
مرات كتير بحسش حالي فلسطيني لأنه مش عايش الاحتلال زي ما عايشينه في غزة وفي رام الله.
I'm falling for a Zionist. I'm in love with the enemy.
هذه الحياة مش بس إيديولوجيا.
Is with Nadav, who gets mentioned at the very, very end of the film. Mr. Kine is fine. He is in a relationship with him. They live together. They have a little dog named Sushi, who is adorable. Fadi's still a nurse. He continues to volunteer once a week on a kind of a hotline, speaking to LGBTQ Palestinians from the West Bank. And he's well. He's doing very good. And Naeem now has a fantastic relationship with his family, and is also in a relationship with an Israeli Jewish boy, and is partying pretty hard, and I think enjoying the distance from coming out and the freedom that clearly comes with that.
So what's next for you? Are you going to tackle any more LGBT issues?
We're launching a web series. I've produced, along with my producing partner, a web series here in Tel Aviv that comes out in June that is scripted, not documentary. And it's not explicitly LGBTQ, but it is about kind of digital dating and hooking up. And there are definitely some LGBTQ episodes in there. And we're, fingers crossed, going to be delivering an English language version of that at the beginning of next year as well.
Will go on to DVD and VOD eventually?
Yeah, we're launching digitally in the middle end of June, worldwide, on most platforms. And with regards to DVD, there will also be availability thereafter. Yeah, so I'm excited to, at this stage it's been wonderful to share the film with communities who really, to do Skype calls at 2:00 in the morning with a gender studies department with 8 people in a room who have come out to watch the movie. That's really fun because, they want to be there and they're engaged and they want to ask questions and stuff. Did I have what, sorry?
Did you ever think it would turn out this way, this project? It's been several years, correct?
Yeah, when I started making it, I was doing video branding work for Playboy as a freelancer.
Playboy in Israel?
They had launched it around that time, around January 2012, and 2013, sorry. And yeah, I was doing that and I was not enjoying it particularly. And I was really just looking to kind of build my portfolio as a director, having left this production company I was working for. And so when I started shooting the guys, I thought this is like a 10, 15-minute piece maybe for a website I put together or something and see where it would go. And then just as I got deeper and deeper into it, I don't think I would have given, 2 and a bit years of my life to the project if I didn't think it was a story that people would want to watch and engage with.
Good. I always finish my interviews, and I might as well do it the same, even though I don't interview many nice straight Jewish boys from Essex. If we're making a film about Jake and have unlimited budget, who would play you?
Who would play me? Ooh. Oh God, that's a very good question. I think if I could have anyone to play me...
no budget restrictions.
Eddie Redmayne, I think he's the best actor alive.
We'll see if he's available.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.